we bury the motion?
So same rules apply, 2-minute introduction, and then we'll open it up for questions. Since you are ladies and you don't have a cheerleader voice probably like me.
I do.
Okay, good. Just,
I do.
I'm sorry we don't have a mic system. I am trying to get one, but.
You want to go ahead?
Good evening, and sorry if I'm nervous because I'm not used to this many bodies in one spot. I am Tracy Balvin, Montana. I am a candidate for Douglas County Coroner. I've been in Colorado since 1978. I've been in Douglas County since 2000. I have been with the Denver County Coroner's Office since 1995. I currently am still there. I have a master's degree in criminal justice, and I worked 7 years in emergency medicine as a state certified paramedic and EMT. I have a very specialized skill set. That's why I'm running for coroner. I live in this county. I've been in this county since 2000, and I want us to have the best of everything. The best law enforcement, the best county commissioners, and the best coroner's office. I want to bring in all the experience that I have learned at the Denver Coroner's Office, the busiest in the state, bring it to Douglas County and make our coroner's office the best around. Tracy Balvin.
Good evening. My name is Jill Roman. Thank you for inviting me here. My website is jill4corner.org. The reason I'm running for Douglas County Coroner's Office is because I come from an area where I managed an 8-county consortium. That was a group of 800,000 citizens, and I ran it with total efficiency. In that group, I did thousands and thousands of autopsies. I did almost 50,000 death investigations myself. I had 27 investigators that I ran and managed. I did day-to-day operations from in a coroner's office from the bottom up and from the top down. I've got 23 years of experience. I trained in New York City after the Twin Towers fell. I was one of 30 that trained there after the Twin Towers fell, after the initial National Institute of Justice put out a call nationwide to bring in the best medical legal death investigators. I'm one of less than 200 across the nation with American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators at the highest level of training, according to American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators. I love what I do. I've been doing it solidly for 23 years, for the last 13 years at the upper level of management. Jill Roman for coroner. Thank you.
I think this gentleman.
Yes.
As I understand it, in Colorado, you don't have to be a medical doctor to be a coroner.
That's right.
Maybe it would be beneficial to the group if you explain some of the duties, both of you, what a coroner does, ruling on death, and other issues that come up.
You want to go first? Are we starting?
Certainly not. Okay. Well, first of all, to be coroner, the qualifications are actually very small. You have to be 18, you have to have a high school diploma or a GED, and you have to live in the county. To do an autopsy by law is a practice of medicine, so to do an autopsy, you have to be a physician, period. The coroner's office is responsible for cause and manner of death. We do medical legal death investigations. I have the blend of the medicine and the legal part because the coroner rules on the cause and manner of death. To do the investigation, it's a wide range of activities. The autopsy is just one small part. You also do the scene investigation. You do scene photography, body examination at the scene, witness interviews, statements, review of medical records, review of evidence, review of prescription medications. You have to review the toxicology report, sometimes you have to do a reenactment, reconstruction of the scene. So, I hate to quote or bring up CSI, but think about CSI. The autopsy is just maybe 3 minutes. The whole investigation is the rest of the hour. That's what's important, because there's nothing worse than not recognizing or missing something at the scene or an investigation and miscategorizing a death. Maybe ruling a death as suicide when it's an accident. You cannot make that mistake. So that's why the investigation is important. The autopsy is one small aspect. And,
Tracy's absolutely right with a lot of aspects. In fact, it is a pretty minimal standard that the state of Colorado has. You really have to take a look at the death scene as a whole. There's a lot of components to it. An autopsy is not 3 minutes long, though. I do definitely disagree. It's an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's done by a board-certified forensic pathologist. And these people have got a minimum of 13 years of college. These people are highly skilled individuals. They have prosectors with them. When I said that I've done thousands and thousands of autopsies, that is true. I stand right next to these highly qualified people, and that's where I've gotten my training, is side by side with nationally recognized board-certified forensic pathologists. They diagnose, that's what they do. They discover cause of death. Medical legal death investigators were responsible for manner of death. Manner of death is homicide, suicide, accident, natural, and undetermined causes. So we get our training. American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigation is where we get our first set of training after we're done with college for most of us. There's 2 levels. One is diplomat, the other one, we gotta go.
No,
The other
you have
one,
1 second.
okay. The other one is at a higher level, registered. I happen to be at the highest level. Go ahead. Next question.
So, just to clarify, you're not a physician and you haven't actually performed the autopsy?
I am not a physician, and I have actually performed thousands of autopsies. What I don't do is diagnose.
How can you perform if to be
Because there's a
pathologist, you
prosector,
have to be doctor?
The doctor does diagnosing. The prosector does the actual cutting. In most national labs, many national labs, the prosector does the cutting, and the physician receives the organs that the prosector cuts, and the physician receives the organs and diagnoses. Autopsy assistant is another term, if you're not familiar with the term prosector.
Tracy,
And I would
did-
just add to that, she is correct. We have autopsy assistants. They do some assisting the physician or the forensic pathologist, but they're not allowed to do it unless the physician is actually in the building. Because that would be the practice of medicine, and only a doctor can do that.
Just a point of clarification, I don't believe, Tracy, you weren't actually saying that the autopsy only takes 3 minutes, is that correct?
No, I was saying like in a 60-minute CSI, you know, that's all I was saying. Sorry if that wasn't clear.
Without commercials.
Okay, Rick. Rick, next question.
In Douglas County, the last few years, unfortunately, there has been a very adversarial relationship between the coroner's department and the sheriff's department, which I find appalling. But what would you do to repair that relationship and put it back on a decent level?
Me? I come from a large community in a large 8-county consortium, as I told you. Within that group, there were 45 law enforcement agencies. That's a huge network. That, in my group, was not including State Patrol, our equivalent to CBI. That did not include marshals. It did not include NTSB that I worked with, or FAA and the plane crashes that I managed. That was just the agencies themselves within the 8-county consortium. I've never had one complaint. I've never had one complaint here in Douglas County in the 5 law enforcement agencies. That speaks for itself.
Tracy?
During my career, my almost 20 years here in Colorado, I've got a proven track record of working with all types of agencies, including state, federal, and local agencies and law enforcement. One of my things is you have to be professional. Sometimes that means leaving your personality at the door. We all have a job to do. You have to be part of a team. That's the only way it works, and that's how the law is set up. The law gives the jurisdiction of the body to the coroner and the jurisdiction of the scene to law enforcement. Usually the body's in the scene, so that forces you to work together. You have to work together. That's what's best for the case. That's what's best for the county. I think you have to be a professional. And there's always going to be sometimes rubs, sometimes conflict, but you handle yourself like a professional.
Thank you. Yes.
Brad Hyden from Parker. Are you willing to change the current coroner's policy to not share any of your investigators' reports with law enforcement and share pictures that your coroner investigators take at the scene with law enforcement, as is the current policy under Laura Thomas?
The issue, I think, is relative to the state laws. The issue has to do with what do the state laws really say. That's the bottom line of what you can share and what you can't share. The state laws, as I understand them, currently say that the information provided has to be provided through the appropriate agencies to be passed over. I am very willing to share anything that the laws provide, obviously. You have to work within the state laws.
Day one, we share everything with the exception of medical records. You can't, that's called secondary dissemination. You can't share someone else's medical records. Law enforcement has to go through a certain channel to get their own medical records. Everything else, again, it goes back to the spirit of cooperation. These are two agencies working together. We've got sometimes different objectives, the same goal, to properly investigate the case. You have to share. A good example would be sometimes maybe there's somebody has an accident at home, they have a life-threatening injury, they are transported to the hospital and then die. The coroner's office might not have responded to the scene. Maybe it takes them a couple days to die. But law enforcement did. They're going to have pictures. They're going to have statements. We're going to ask for them to share that stuff with us. So you have to always work together. And there is no law that says you cannot cooperate with agencies, law enforcement agencies, doing an investigation, with the exception of the medical records.
This lady right here, I know you've had your hand up a couple of times. Yes.
Yeah, my question, I'm Melissa Hart from Parker. My question is, my question is, if you are elected into the coroner's office, how will you guarantee and make sure that we keep institutional knowledge at the same time balancing the leadership that's needed there?
That's a tough question, Melissa. So explain it to me just a little bit more. How do we keep institutional knowledge?
I just want to make sure that we have the ability to, there's a lot of seats on the bus right now, right? And I just want to make sure that we are able to keep our institutional knowledge of the people that have been in the coroner's office, and at the same time have the ability to be able to lead and have the right skill sets and talents in the seat. It's just, how would you do that? How are you going to handle that?
How would you do what?
How would you, when you walk in?
I'll go first if you'd like, Jill. First of all, if elected, I don't believe in change for the sake of change. I think your personnel, your most valuable resource. I actually have a investigator training program. A lot of my employees are my trainees. They train with me for a year or in this program for a year. They go on to be hired at other metropolitan coroner's office. I try to teach them longevity because personnel, your most valuable resource, your most costly to replace. So you try to give them the skills that they need to continue with their careers. There's 3 of my investigators that I have trained in my program in the Douglas County Coroner's Office right now. I'm real comfortable with their skill sets. I think anybody that goes into the office, you have to sit down with each employee, get to know them, go over their personnel file. If they have any deficiencies, you address it. It's a training issue. But the employees, and it's always hard in these situations where there's elected officials, but employees shouldn't feel like their jobs are at stake. That's not fair. And actually, historically in Colorado, there's been very little turnover with these coroners elections, with the exception of the last coroner election.
Every one of the 5 investigators in our office is going to stay put, hands down. I'm elected coroner. Jamie is going to stay. Every single one of them is going to stay. These are highly qualified people. These are people, because of Laura Thomas's program, live in Douglas County, have purchased homes in Douglas County. They're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. They are here to stay. Every morning I spend an hour with them in medical training. We talk about things. We go over the cases from the night before. These are their neighbors who have died. These are their grandparents. These are people that are important to them. It is incredibly important. Their county is incredibly important to them. There aren't going to be any changes in the staff that we have, with the exception of bringing more people on as Douglas County continues to grow. And those people being brought on might be from national organizations like myself, extremely qualified people, but they're going to be here to stay. I'm not making changes.
Yes, sir.
Kevin Duffy from Cass Run. Prior to our current coroner, we had a full-time pathologist that was working for and only for Douglas County. When the current coroner team pathologist that we use in our autopsies is a non-board certified pathologist, how do you explain, or what would you do with this problem when it comes to when we bring in a criminal investigation like a homicide, and the autopsy and the critical component of the coroner's office is dependent upon the testimony of a board certified pathologist, and currently in Douglas County we do not have that resource available to us?
That's an outstanding question. Thank you for asking that. That's an outstanding question. First of all, the change was made to save $267,000. And as Republican, as am I, we both know that that's paramount in how we see and do things in Douglas County. We are fiscally conservative. The next component is that, did we bring on 1 or did we bring on 4? We brought on 4, 3 of which are board certified forensic pathologists. If a homicide comes into our office, we bring in the other 3, all of which are board certified forensic pathologists. So we've got 4 for the price less of $267,000. The one that you're talking about, Dr. Burson, is the one that does come in most often, but he is not the one that's coming in on homicides.
But how do you know it's a homicide?
That's
You
even
find
a
that
better
homicide on the
question.
table,
That's
and
even a
Dr.
better
Burson has done
question.
it. The case is already taken.
When you become a forensic pathologist, you have to go through training, and part of that training is 350 autopsies before you take your boards. All those physicians who are taking those 350 autopsies, forensic autopsies, before they're board certified, are court ready also. That's a standard with National Association of Medical Examiners offices. That's done nationwide, and they still are convicting homicides.
Tracy?
I was disappointed that the forensic pathologist was let go. There's only about, it depends on which list you look at, 600 to 700 forensic pathologists in the country that are active, and less than 20 in Colorado. Douglas County was lucky enough to have one. That being said, right now I believe we're paying about $1,040 for each autopsy. A full-time forensic pathologist can do, by name standards, that's the National Association of Medical Examiners, up to $325. So you can do the math. The problem is that we don't have the caseload here in Douglas County to, I think they do about 140, 130 autopsies per year. So you can see there's a little bit of difference there. There would be room to grow if we hired a forensic pathologist, or we could also, as like in Denver, we could do, instead of right now, they do almost more outside, actually I think, Joe, you guys do more outside county cases than you do inside county cases. that's a little bit of a problem for me. In Denver, when we do outside county cases, our forensic pathologists do the outside county cases, and guess what? We get that revenue. The city gets that revenue. I certainly like that. I'm not a fan of outsourcing autopsies because they are good doctors, but we want someone that's loyal and dedicated to Douglas County, that's an employee of Douglas County, that will put our autopsies first, instead of, in a line of many others. That being said, the first thing that needs to be done, was that 20 seconds or is that?
No,
That's time.
In the spirit of teamwork, you can't do anything. There's 3 layers of the criminal justice program, our system: law enforcement, DA, and the coroner's office. You have to work together before you make a big decision like that. I would consult with the DA's office and law enforcement. What's going to work for you guys? What can we do as a team that's best for Douglas County?
I can guarantee you that your patients are not being put second. Your family members are not being put second.
Sharcy?
Just a quick question. I wondered if you'd give us your current title and tell us how long you've been a Republican.
My current title is Chief Deputy for Douglas County. And I've been a Republican since, my oldest son is 1978. So I've been a Republican since 1983. And before that, I have always voted independent. And I have been independent for a long time. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I'm watching the time. I work for Dr. Lindsay Thomas. There's 2 physicians above me, then it was me in this large organization, and 2 physicians below me. My son fought on the front lines of Iraq War, and when I was in doing autopsies, they would come in, because he worked nights on the front lines, and they would come in and say, "Yoo-ha, hoo-ha," and that would mean my son's on the phone. And Lindsay would say to me, a good friend of mine, but a screaming Democrat, she would say, "Well, look, we got to keep working here." She would cut me down at the knees because my son was on the front line. By the way, my son has got a disability. I had to hide the fact that I was Republican because she had Obama plastered everywhere in her room. I'm a single parent. I had to support my children. So even though you have looked in my records and seen that I have been an independent, I have been a Republican. I had to support my children. It was important to me that I did so, because I was not going to put my children on any Democratic program out there.
Okay, but how would your employer know that you were Republican, Democrat, Independent?
Because she checks like you guys.
Tracy?
I've been a registered Republican since 2007. My current title is medical legal death investigator. I also have additional titles: cohort coordinator, that's my 200+ volunteer team, and then investigator, internship coordinator.
Okay, we're going to take one more question, and then we'll have you guys wrap it up.
So you said that the one coroner or pathologist was,
Actually, all 4 of them were.
you said that the one pathologist was let go to save $267,000?
Oh,
How
you're
much
back
are
to
the
that.
4 costing the county?
You know, I don't have that exact, it's $267,000 less.
So 4 cases are less than one guy?
Because it's per case, it's like 1,000 per case, we do 140 cases, so about 140,000.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Holly,
One quick question.
one quick question, unless Tracy, did you want to make any comment to the,
No, I'm good.
okay. Okay,
Jill,
I
I've
know
heard a
you've had
couple
your,
times you said you've done over 50,000.
Around
death
50,000,
investigations. Okay,
right.
around 50,000. Just looking at the numbers, it's always seemed like a huge number.
It is, it's
If you
incredible.
take 23 years, 365 days a year, that's 6 autopsies a day for the last 23 years. I'm wondering if you actually, or death investigations, if you've
Right.
done 6 death investigations a day for the last 23 years, 365
Yeah.
days a year,
Yeah.
how did you do anything else besides that if you even did that many?
From 1999, if I even did that, that would, I guess
I'm
what
just
you're really
wondering how
saying
that
is I'm not
impacts
telling the
you. That's
truth.
holidays, weekends.
I just did, I just explained to you as a single parent, from 1999 to 2006. Okay, I've been doing this since 1991, okay? But from 1999 to 2006, I worked for Minnesota Regional Medical Examiner's Office, managing that office with 800,000 people, Monday through Friday. Then I went to Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office, 3 12-hour shifts nights, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was a single parent with 3 children. That is the truth. I worked that many hours.
Okay, if you want to wrap it up with your 1 minute, we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Tracy Bowden Montano. I am a candidate for coroner. I think I have shown that I am committed to the community. Been in the community since 2000, and this is where my husband and I have chosen to live. We came from Denver, chose to live here. I'm committed to Colorado. I've been here since 1978. I'm committed to the coroner system. I've been training investigators, a whole new generation of investigators. If someone dies in the Front Range tonight, there's a good chance that the case is going to be investigated by someone that was trained by me. I'm committed to the community as far as mass disaster. I have a 200-plus volunteer team that I organize, coordinate, and still manage today. I think even Laura Thomas was a member in 2009. I'm well respected among my professionals and colleagues, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
My closing statement is, I really am who I say I am. I'm tenacious, I'm hardworking, I have got a future that brings Douglas County into the national limelight in the sense that I really want the best for Douglas County. I have got a vision for Douglas County that includes me, that includes your citizens. I really am talented nationally. I love what I do it well. I've got the experience to prove it from the background. I've got the support of my office to prove it here now, and I've got an eye on the growth of what Douglas County is and is going to become. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it, and I feel blessed by it. Good night.